Hello, my name is Narek Petrosyan. I'm recording this video for class HCA 701, and today's topic is COVID-19 passports. Our lives have changed in February of 2020 when the COVID-19 virus started spreading and infecting millions of people across the world. About 78 million people got infected in the United States alone, and about 891,000 people died from it. Governments across the world tried their best to contain the virus by using different methods, such as lockdowns, mask mandates, and keeping the distance from each other. Unfortunately, all of these efforts have proven to be ineffective. During this time, scientists across the globe have tried to develop vaccines and boosters that would help us to not get the COVID-19. And on top of that, it would help us to have less severe reactions if we got infected. So today, the reason of this debate is for me to prove that the public and health benefits of mandated COVID-19 vaccine passports outweigh its costs. I like to start from the private sector. In my opinion, private sector needs easy and clear guidelines to be more proficient. The government needs to help the private sector by telling them by giving them a chance to prove that dining in their place or being in their organization is a safe thing to do. If a couple is dining in a restaurant and they're surrounded by people that they don't know, some of them might be afraid to go there for the second time because they don't know if they're surrounded by people who are sick or not. According to Hall, this would help, having COVID passports would potentially help us to decrease the unlawful discrimination that some people have been experiencing. Besides, it must be said that even though we have the COVID cards, these are easy to replicate and it's easy to make the fraudulent ones. Even though they have been helping us, but unfortunately there are some people that try to make fraudulent COVID cards. And 2 nurses got caught selling those cards and made about $1.5 million. This proves the point that if the government takes control of making COVID passports, this would reduce the crime rate in the United States, and that's something that we all are trying to get. The idea of having a vaccination card is not a new one. EU members and Israel have successfully been using their versions of COVID passports. Especially Israel, they have successfully been using their green pass. And this is how they made it work. Those who had the green pass, basically those that were vaccinated, had access to public goods such as public transport, going to sporting events, concerts, dining outside. And those who didn't have vaccination didn't have access to those public goods. It must be said that Israel did not mandate the vaccination. It was up to everyone. But if you wanted to partake in those activities, you had to have the vaccine and you needed to have your passport. It must be said that some people argue that this is not constitutional and it violates human rights. It needs to be said that according to Article 31 of International Health Regulations, the members of that organization are allowed to mandate their citizens to obtain a vaccine and to have a passport. President Biden and his administration have said multiple times that it is their goal to reduce the COVID numbers and it is their goal to get as many people vaccinated as possible. Currently, many employers are looking for a proof of vaccination before one can return to work, or they can be hired, especially we're talking about healthcare sector. This goes to prove that if vaccination becomes mandatory across the world, across the United States, this is going to enforce many Americans to go against their will and get a vaccination if they want to be a part of the society and take part in many stuff, such as going to work and making money. Those people, if they are mandated to have a vaccine, there is no point to fight on not having a passport on it, because if you already have the vaccine and if you were mandated to have the vaccine and you have already vaccinated, it's pointless fighting that fight that cannot be won. I like to talk about the benefits of getting this vaccine. The first one that comes to mind is less waiting time in the airports. Currently, if you want to travel, you need to show them proof of vaccination, basically a vaccine passport, or you need to show them a negative test results. First of all, this will decrease our time in the airports. And if you go to another country and come back, you won't even need to quarantine after that because you already have a proof in your hands, in your smartphone, or in a document showing that you're vaccinated, and you can just go and be happy. All of this leads to one thing that many people are missing. This leads to more vaccination. Basically, this leads to safer America. And I believe that's what we all should be striving to have, a safer America, not only for the elderly, but for everyone. Not only elderly are getting sick and unfortunately dying from it, but many people who are immunocompromised, those people die also. And having vaccine cards would help us to have a safer America. Many people argue that COVID passports is infringing on their freedom. I'd like to raise them this question. How did freedom look like when they were under the lockdown? There wasn't really much of it. Businesses weren't allowed to be open. Many people didn't go outside because there is nothing to do. People had to have a good reason to be outside of their homes. And there isn't really much freedom in it. If the COVID numbers keep on rising, this is going to lead to another lockdowns. And in a lockdown, no one has freedom. And people that were vaccinated are being kept at home. And that's not just fair, because those people did the right thing. They got the vaccine, but because of several people, a certain group of people, they are getting punished. And if people had their vaccine, their COVID passports, and an officer stopped them and asked them for the proof of their vaccination, COVID passport, would they be able to help us? We would be able to just show it to them, and that would be the end of it. COVID pass, and many people forget that COVID passports is not an all-time thing. It's going to be a temporary measure to ensure that we get that herd immunity. Once we get the herd immunity and everyone is safe, we won't even need these passports. We can toss it away, and life will go back to normal. Many people forget that vaccination, if you want to move to the United States, you need a proof of vaccination. If you want to study, or you want to go to a public school, you need to provide proof of vaccination. And what is COVID passport if not a proof of vaccination? If we are already doing it for some instances, what's holding us back from having those vaccine passports to protect United States citizens even better? In conclusion, I'd like to say that not complying with the vaccination mandates and fighting improvement endangers the well-being of the United States. And this is not only endangering the well-being of the US citizens, but it is endangering our economy. Inflation has been high, and the sooner we reopen our economy to the fullest, like it was pre-pandemic, the better we will be off. And I'd like to close my arguments by saying that health and safety of the Americans are more important than a pseudo-freedom that one gets by choosing not to get vaccinated and obtain a COVID passport. Thank you. Here are my references that I used to prepare for this debate. Have a nice day and get COVID passports.